Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Today, the Rethink Leadership podcast welcomes Karl Lillrud. He is passionate about digital commerce, innovation and business growth. His journey in these fields has been shaped by personal and work-life experience, including overcoming dyslexia and embracing extreme sports. Karl firmly believes in the transformative power of AI and how it's reshaping the business landscape as we approach the 2030s. In fact, he's an awarded top 10 thought leader on AI and digital twins, as well as being named by global gurus as one of the top 30 best speakers internationally. We discuss how generative AI is redefining the business landscape, how it is being employed to fuel growth, and how AI is becoming a personal support engine for everyone, not just the few. This episode is in aid of the Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity, a research and advocacy center based at Yale University in the US, focusing on understanding dyslexia and its link to creativity. Karl, thanks very much for joining me. Please introduce yourself, your expertise, and the amazing awards you've been picking up.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me on the show. My name is Karl Lillrud, and I'm a professional speaker and helping companies realize and understand how to grow faster. And with that, how to make use of smart technology like artificial intelligence. But to me, what's the core of it all is innovation and innovation drive and how we actually nourish that inside an organization.
And it's not been an easy journey for you because I know, having known you a little bit as well, you overcame dyslexia, you embraced other things in your life, and you really had to work hard at this. So what kind of was your journey like getting to this sort of expertise level?
Yeah, so if we look back as a child, obviously being dyslexic and that the education system didn't really know how to support that back then was a challenge for sure. And what I realized back then was that I'm someone that likes to challenge things and actually do that, go that extra mile, so to say. That made me into what I am today, a person that loves to experiment and try new things and are not afraid of the challenges. Because growing up, everything was a very big challenge when I looked at my schoolmates. Like, they did a homework in no time. And for me to read a text that changed every time I read it, obviously it was difficult to get a good understanding of what it is that I'm looking at that point in time. And for me to actually become an author was really outside my comfort zone. And today I published 9 books. So I sort of embrace these challenges as opportunities rather than breakers or blockers, as many other people might see them. And that is one of my core strengths today. And that is also something that I, as a speaker and mentor, really push on stage and to the people I work with. Like, you need to understand that the mindset behind our limitations is something that you can control.
You have been recognized actually for your journey and your prolific writing, let's call it, and your speaking. Just tell us about a couple of the latest awards that you've picked up.
Yeah, so for the 3rd year in a row, I was actually just awarded as one of the top 10 speakers in the world, which is amazing and flattering, of course. It's not something that I can say myself, but I can just point at the award and say, people think this of me. And that's amazing for sure. I'm also been awarded as one of the top AI thought leaders in the world. And for many years, I've been seen as a great e-commerce expert on many different top lists of amazing e-commerce experts, because I've been working in the field of e-commerce for since 2000 and in 2000 and 2001, where I actually started to really operate in that space, and really seeing all the obstacles and limitations, and I was actually told by someone that I spoke to back then that the internet is just a fly. This will never work. And I've been talking to people that say like, yeah, we take orders by a cup of coffee. Like, yeah, but how is that scalable? So one of the layers of experience that I have is the hands-on experience, that I've seen everything evolve, and I've been challenging that evolutional progress in so many ways and trying to see what more can we do? What like different steps does this consist of? And what is it that are just us being lazy? Because we are lazy. We are living in our comfort zone. That's where most people enjoy to live their life, and taking limited or no risks even. While I'm more of a person that feels comfort in the uncomfortable zone. That's where the fun stuff happens.
It is. And one of those uncomfortable zones you mentioned is digital technologies. We've gone past e-commerce, we're internet, mobile, all of this, and we're into the era of generative AI. And we as leaders have to learn just a slightly faster pace for, than our audiences in many ways, because of the pace of change. And often we miss some of the basics like definitions. So I'm going to bring you back to that point. How would you define AI, generative AI, for the business leaders who are tuning in today?
First of all, AI is not another buzzword, because we've been seeing buzzwords like blockchain, big data, and all these things in between for a couple of years that have turned out not as buzzwords, but things that people really couldn't get their hands on and actually relate to and understand everything behind, and actually feel like, yeah, this is something that I'm part of now. The big difference with artificial intelligence is that it's something that is in everybody's interest. It adds value wherever you are, in whatever situations you are. You can use this as a support mechanism. And that is one of the important things. AI today is not ready to take control of things. It's a support mechanism that you as a human actually need to step in and make the decisions on. Like, here are the different things that I have produced for you. Which one do you think is best? Whatever that might be. And if we look at generative AI, that is the thing. It's producing things for us. And I think that we are still just really scratching the surface of generative AI. I myself have been questioning this for quite many years already. Like, why isn't an e-commerce experience generated for me? Like, the entire experience as I go to that storefront can be tailored to fit me. And on the fly, the entire store can be rebuilt, repurposed, and structured in a way that fits my ever-evolving persona or avatar as we add more and more data, as we learn more about what I am, who I am, where I am, and so on. Like, if I start to look at skiing gear, then obviously I'm in a mindset right now to buy something that is for a skiing season and not going to Bahamas and lying on the beach. For that to be supported, we can regenerate all the content on the site, all the images, all the video of all the products, to be in that type of setup, to have all the background and everything to be in where my mindset is. Just as one example.
And from an AI perspective, like you said, it is providing us things, but the output is just about as, can only be as good as our inputs, which is why we've got frameworks, characters, and prompts. So how would you use that to almost supercharge what you're talking about there versus what I can do on Amazon already, which is I'm put in training shoes or sneakers and it brings me a whole load. So how could we program or use generative AI better to tailor these journeys for ourselves as shoppers?
Yeah. So this is quite interesting. And I believe that there is a big gap here. And whoever listens now, there is a huge opportunity that you can build on. And that is to create a persona data set that I, as an individual behind that avatar persona, depending on how you want to add details into this data set, that I own and I share with the store. Because the store is trying to collect as much data that it can. Like they look at where you are, your IP address, your type of device, to actually try to understand how much money this person have, and like all these different things that they collect to create some sort of understanding about who they're having this conversation with. But if I instead, just like, for example, I've been training a personal GPT with ChatGPT on my data, everything about me, so that if you want to have a conversation with me, you can go to ChatGPT and have that conversation. It's going to be a digital representation of me. In the same sense, that training data should be packaged so I can give it to whatever store I want, so that they can tailor my experience for me, instead of having this secure behind locked doors data set on me that I don't see. I can get access to it in many situations if I have a registered account. If I don't have a registered account, I can't really access it. So I don't know what predictions they are actually making on it. I believe that is going to be a huge change in the market when someone create that support mechanism.
You're right. And I think when the rest of us have more discipline in creating that persona, which is robust, that can be used. And as you were talking actually there, Karl, it just feels like that this is an accelerator for sales, business growth. If we flip it and come away from me as a shopper, but almost me as a supplier now. So AI can be that game changer in driving business growth. How will that happen?
To start with, this digital representation of me that I just mentioned, this is helping me every day to act and behave like me, to make my work easier. As I start to use this more and more, I see the value of this. And as I have this mindset that always challenges the norm in a way, I also see the underlying value and the opportunities that this can bring in terms of adding more, let's call it made up data about me that I then can validate. And if we also look at other data sets, quite soon we'll probably be allowed to train these models on our own image and video data. We already have the training data in terms of training on my voice and how I speak, so that I can create a digital representation that generates voice curves or patterns that sound exactly like me. But if I choose to give access to my iCloud, for example, with all my photos and videos, and give that to a model, that can actually understand more of what it is I like and what I dislike. And this is going to be a huge game changer that create new opportunities. You obviously don't want to share access to your personal photos and videos to an individual, but if you share access to the assumptions that you then have validated in your data set, that can create new business opportunities that we can't even imagine today.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And even when you then consider the almost a supplement to that, or the supporter of that being Web3 and how blockchain can protect that end to end, actually there's lots of reasons to believe that this is the game changer that you're talking about. So for those tuning in that says, right, I want a piece of this, Karl, what do I do to make some progress here? What are the tiny steps that I can take to get me on that road?
Yeah. So one tiny step, if this is new to you, is obviously you can get my latest book, which is totally free. So this is not a sales pitch. You can get it on karllillrud.com. It's called AI, Your Second Brain, Evolve or Go Extinct. It's basically a guidebook to get you started. It has loads of different tools and storytelling to make sure that anyone reading this book can understand about artificial intelligence. And as we progress, there are so many other things that I try to share with a global audience. And as a speaker, I do this on stage, always trying to make sure that I understand who is actually in front of me, obviously as a group, but I think that you as a listener should think the same, like who is in front of me? What value can I bring? Because you carry a tremendous amount of insight and knowledge. And I was just in Davos at the World Economic Forum week and was talking at an event about leadership and how we can make use of making wise decisions as young leaders are developing in the market and so on. And a strong suggestion that I came with over there was to everyone, all the listeners of your amazing podcast here, to think, who can I give 15 minutes of my time to and support them as a 15-minute mentor? Because even if you feel you don't are a professional mentor, you can still mentor someone that are younger or have an idea or something, and focus on the value that you will bring, not mitigating risks. Support them in their vision and help them get a couple of steps closer to what it is that they envision.
So, and as you mentioned there, Karl, it's www.karllillrud.com, which we'll put on the screen and we'll put on the show notes as well to get hold of that free book. It sounds great to make some steps there to go to. And as you just said there at the end, not forgetting that human touch and that input, because it's in one way anybody can get on board with this. But that then, as you were talking, raised another question for me around accessibility. Is this for the few or is this for all of us?
It is both. So there are an incredible amount of tools that are available free to start with. But then if you want to get a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit more qualitative responses and so on, many of these tools also have a paid upgrade like ChatGPT 4 and so on. If you look at Midjourney and many of these tools actually offer a little bit better if you are there for it and ready to pay for it. But that doesn't mean that the free versions are bad. I always suggest you to play around with anything before you pay for it, if there is a free version to test. And to understand, like, how is this tool better than this other one? How why should I choose this model, this LLM over another LLM? Why should I choose to generate images using this tool or this tool? Can I try multiple models and see which fits me best? Do I want to make photos? Do I want to make art? Do I want to make characters for a game or so on? And it's all coming back to what we talked about before, the training data. If like one model might be trained on an amazing amount of art pieces, while another model is trained on just photos. If you ask the general public, you will see like, yeah, this is the best model. This is what you should use if you just do a Google search for it. But the response is not correct in that sense, because it depends on what you as an individual want to get out of it. So experiment and keep that in mind. Whatever we do, we are experimenting. Whatever we try, we should think of it not as a project that might fail. Instead, look on it as an experiment that is where it's totally fine if something doesn't go your way, so to say, because it's an experiment. It's a learning curve.
And it does sound like that for many people who aren't as experienced as you, that are moving into this, that there's so many possibilities, but there's probably a lot of potholes that they can go into, or roadblocks along the way, or rabbit holes they go down to investigate something.
Yep.
So what would be your top tips and watch outs for those who do want to accelerate progress to get started?
As most of you have probably heard before, make sure you don't think of a project as a waterfall model where you have to know everything. Just start with the simplest thing that will add the most amount of value at that particular point. Not long-term value, but something that will make it possible for you to show your concept. And then as you show your concept, you progress and you listen to whoever you present your concept to, and you add the missing pieces. But don't go on and listen to just one person. Make sure that you start adding missing pieces after talking to a couple of people. Like, for example, I've been talking about proof of concepts for many years. And if you go to a group of developers, they probably say like, yeah, let's create a proof of concept. Let's just write some code and see how it works. To me, a proof of concept is sort of a paper and napkin sketch. Like, this is a box, this is a button, and when you click here, this happens. Like, show it. That takes 10 seconds. That's the first conceptual interface that you want to get feedback on. Cut corners, make it super, super simple. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles. You don't need to overthink things. Like, I had a conversation with the development team just last week, and they were a bit concerned about the data in the product that they were building. Like, how can we protect the personal data and user information? And this is a very early stage startup. And my response is like, yeah, what personal data? What user information? Yeah, we got the name, we got the email address, we got this and that and that. Like, okay, remove all that. Use a username and a password. Then you're safe. Don't even collect the email address at this point. Just username and password. Then we can have that saved in whatever environment we like, and we don't need to feel that there's a threat or there's a risk that we save information that we shouldn't save and so on. Like, simplify it to the extreme, because that's how you're going to fly faster than your competitors.
And so what would be the watch outs for people who are starting down this road to avoid some of those dead ends or kind of rabbit holes that they might go down?
Blockers are the watch outs, or naysayers. That's the big concerns that you need to manage or handle in one way or another. Like, whenever you get to a point where something says stop, or you can't do this, or this is a risk, of course, you should consider those things. But you should also consider that it's just a person that might feel like you're stepping outside their comfort zone. It doesn't mean that their opinion is correct. It's an opinion in most cases. At the same time, you also should consider, like, if I strongly believe in this and there is a blocker, then make sure that you come up with 10 different ideas of how to go around, go over, break that blocker or whatever. And then as you have those 10 things that you brainstormed, you choose which one or which 3 that you want to experiment with.
Yeah, and I think reflecting back on the conversation, the word that you've used a lot here is experimentation. Be prepared to experiment, be prepared to fail a bit, be prepared to learn. That's ultimately what it is, that we need to learn this. I recognize my own journey in this, actually, the amounts of failures that I've had in it, and kind of learning how to do some of these things. You talked about it before, creating that persona. That took me a long time to kind of get to. We could talk for a long time on the hows and wherefores, and I'm sure that many of those tuning in will want to get in touch with you, Karl, continue the discussion, connect, do all those things. How do they do that, and how do they get hold of your books and all of your other services?
The easiest way is by visiting my website, karllillrud.com, or to just go to Google and type in Karl Lillrud. Most probably you'll find the site, and then shortly after that you'll find LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is something that I use all the time. It's an amazing tool. The platform itself might need some upgrades, to be honest, and they are working on it, I'm sure, but it's not moving as fast as the rest of the world is. So LinkedIn or my website, and that's where you also find all my contact information.
Well, plenty of food for thought for those tuning in for this episode. Generative AI is on everybody's lips so far. So, Karl, thanks for adding to that discussion and joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blain. Please like, comment, and support us on your favorite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.